Very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. Charles Mwangu Shampagi. We continue our focus on the unfolding crisis in the Forum for Democratic Change, which held an election and swore in a new president for the party this just ended week. But the fallout in that party is apparent. A press conference called by General Mugisha Muntu and his supporters announcing, saying that he's not quitting the party, but a lot of speculation that he was about to quit the party and maybe form another party. He's keeping Ugandans guessing what exactly is going on in the Uganda's biggest party in the opposition, the Forum for Democratic Change. To discuss that with us tonight, let me introduce, starting with Gerald Karuhanga. Gerald Karuhanga is actually not a card-holding member of the Forum for Democratic Change, but he is an FDC-leaning MP, if I could introduce him as that, independent in Parliament representing Ntungamo Municipality. Gerald, very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening, viewers.
May I also add that Gerald Karuhanga was guild president of Makerere University, and I think then you are on the FDC ticket.
That's very true.
Very nice to have you.
Thank you.
We have, of course, Onapito Ekomoloit. He's part of the show, so he doesn't need a lot of introduction, but he's legal and corporate affairs manager at Nile Breweries SAB InBev. Director. Very nice to have you, Ona.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
And the spokesperson of the national spokesperson, FDC Women's League, Sarah Epero. Very nice to have you, Sarah.
Thank you, Charles. I'm happy to be here again. Good evening, viewers.
Let me start with you, Sarah, to ask what tendency in the FDC, because we hear now the FDC is a party divided between two tendencies. Which tendency do you subscribe to?
I'm an FDC. And I do not have, I do not know of those tendencies you're trying to refer to. I know of one FDC.
Gerald, I hear there are two tendencies within the Forum for Democratic Change. Which one, if you were a card-holding member, would you be subscribing to?
I want to say that there are several schools of thought within FDC. And just like maybe any other political party, there are those who really firmly believe that emphasis should be put on organization. And there are those who believe that, yes, organization and civil disobedience, but there are those who say it is defiance. Only, so defiance. Now, I would go for the former, that for you to engage and turn around any community or country, you have to go in and organize. But where it requires, you also have to engage in civil disobedience. I was a student leader. I participated in lots of those organizations, particularly in civil disobedience. Now, for me, I actually don't think that's so much to what FDC should be about. I want to imagine that in any organization, it's healthy and it's okay for people to have different opinions. The question is whether they can coexist, whether there is going to be acceptance by the main actors for the two or even more schools of thought to allow this operation, or those who believe in different approaches, to work together, to live together. And this happens all over. Even if you study the parties in our neighborhood, like in Kenya.
The FDC has just ended an election.
Yes.
It has sworn in its third president.
Yes. In
its 12 years of existence. Actually, you would say fourth president, because you had interim leadership before Dr. Kizza Besigye came back in 2005. There was interim leadership immediately after the party was created. And then Kizza Besigye comes back into the country November 2005, and he takes over leadership of the party formally, runs until he cut short his, I think, second term to be able to free himself. And now you've had General Mugisha Muntu, who's run the party for close to 5 years. And now you have Patrick Oboy Amuriat as new party president. What would you say about the way or the events of the last 3 to 4 months of this election and the campaign? I mean, the campaign and the election.
Honestly, I want to congratulate FDC. FDC had a very formidable process where we saw democracy being practiced, where we saw leaders present their views to the delegates, engage across the entire country, something that indeed grows a culture of political change in a peaceful manner that we've all been longing for in our country. It has been elusive since independence. Now, there may have been a few things that didn't go well. We don't know perfection almost anywhere in this world. So for me, the exercise was to a very large extent a plus for FDC. Now, there may have been also some issues that came up, and in some ways we thought they were sad. And one particular one to mention is the fact that the tendencies that have always coexisted, and we hoped really at one point that these tendencies would coexist but also mature into a visible practice within a party where other organizations can also learn from. So what I found a bit sad was for the main actors in the party castigating a given legitimate attendance that had been accepted in several meetings, in several coalitions, and really literally fight it as if it was the enemy, or like the way we instead of engaging more in dealing with the regime. So that I found it quite disturbing. However, we still keep with hope.
Do you think the party will still hold together? Because from what as journalists and as observers on the outside, what we're picking is that the party is literally is almost splitting in the middle. You had Patrick Oboy Amriat, whom we hosted here last Sunday, coming in with over 600 votes out of your about 1,200 delegates, and General Mugisha Muntu coming in with close to 500 votes, about 440 something votes. But from what we're hearing, from what we're picking outside of formal presentations, is a party that whose membership and senior leadership is actually very angry with each other, that you're staring at a split in the party.
I think FDC is going through a very tough time. There are things that have been going on for a while that many are really thinking about very critically. And I want to really appreciate General Muntu's approach, that instead of him walking away and saying, oh, I think enough is enough, he says, you know what, this is not about me. This is about Uganda. It's actually not even about FDC. So he says, okay, let's go and talk to the people. Do we really keep saying that we can keep doing exactly the same thing and we expect different results? Or we come and engage Ugandans and say, okay, we need a discussion among ourselves. What do we do? How do we move from here? How much more can we engage and have different results? I think that's where we are, and we are yet to see what comes out of this consultation.
Ona, if you could indulge me for a minute, let me come to Sarah for a bit. Sarah, I understand that, though you didn't tell us, you were a supporter of the new president of the FDC.
Oh, yes, I was.
Patrick Oboy Amriat.
Yes.
And the post-election, actually starting towards the election itself, election day and the post-election, Patrick Amriat Oboy, what kind of party does he take over?
I really get surprised when, I don't know whether it's the media or people outside here try to magnify what you're calling a split in FDC. First of all, allow me to use this opportunity to congratulate my party, just like Gerard did, for having gone through a very smooth exercise. I know people on the other side are feeling very shy about what happens in FDC. It's unfortunate Gerard was uncomfortable with the kind of competition that was there. You know, most times they accuse us of having fake competitions. You're pretenders, you're just play acting. But this was a competition and real competed. The one thing that makes me happy is that all of us, both sides that you're trying to refer to, General Muntu's camp and Patrick's camp, have come out to accept that the election was free and fair. And that one makes me very peaceful and very comfortable. I know it is almost impossible for FDC to split, because since the election time, I've not had anybody come out with a tangible reason put on table that would necessitate a split. What actually happened was an election where I think many of my friends went into without preparing their minds. When you're going into an election, you expect two things. You either win or you lose. But I think one side, unfortunately, thought they're going for a win. Why? I have to confess, the person I supported came in as an underdog. Everybody had written him off right from the starters. That how can Muriat, he has lost in parliament, I cannot manage this race, he's going to be a walkover. So they went in with that kind of mindset that this one is a walkover. So unfortunately, on election day, when things turned the other way, they were shocked. They had not prepared themselves for that. That is what you're seeing. So me, sometimes I'm comfortable with them when they react that way, because having lost an election is not a nice thing.
So they react there for a moment. Only there for a moment. FDC is, we all accept, the largest party in the opposition.
Yes.
Though large in the Ugandan context is also difficult to measure, because if you look at the numbers in parliament, in local council positions, and elsewhere, the presence is not as big, but in the circumstances, it is the biggest political party. So a lot of Ugandans have an interest in what is going on in the FDC and are following what is going on in the FDC.
Yes.
And you, as members and leaders in the party, are talking about what is going on in the... So there is no magnification, as you put it. The discussion is you have had a bitter election.
This one was not as bitter as 2012. 2012 had issues, but if we could come out of the election of 2012 between Honorable Nathan Nandala Mafabi and then General Muntu, if we could come out and still move as one party, what reason is there to split us now?
Okay.
I know it's just self-interest, but really, 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 me, I want them to come and put something on table, and you cannot get a solution to a problem before you know the problem. Where is the problem?
I asked you a question. I said, what kind of party does Patrick Oboy Amriat Poa take over?
It's a strong party, just like General Muntu said when he was handing over. It is a strong party, and I know it's going to grow stronger. It's not a splitted party. People may disagree here and there. That is extremely normal.
Okay.
If you are in a party and people have to agree all the time, then you are not doing any business. Even twins disagree at a certain point in time. So we have had these disagreements all the time, and we have sorted them out internally. So I was extremely excited when General Muntu in his press conference said, we need dialogue. But dialogue is not a one-in-time thing. It has to be continuous, because issues raise all the time.
We will come to that in a moment. Let me have Ona come in here. Ona, you're standing on the outside. You're watching what's going on. You're reading the reporting. You're listening to party officials speak, and you're getting feedback from elsewhere. What kind of party does FDC, does Poa take over? I mean, he took the oath on Friday.
Look, Charles, I'm not really, and I don't want to get into the internal dynamics of the FDC. I just want to look at the bigger picture, the suggestion that it could split in two forces, the so-called third force. And my own reflection is that there cannot be a third force in this country, because there's even no second force.
I thought there are so many forces.
Hold on. The only force that has mattered in this country since independence has been the militant, militaristic force. Right from the colonial regime, coming to UPC-1, and up to today. So to try and suggest that you can have any other approach to politics, which I think is the critics of Poa and Besigye, they simply are trying to not recognize the reality in Uganda. The general population has watched since colonial times that the only thing that had mattered, is unfortunate, is militancy and militarism. at different junctures in the history, leaders have boasted. I think Milton Obote used to boast in the 80s. Chemogerere, where you are commanders, you know?
Where you're generals.
Where you are generals. So these tendencies, which I think Kizza Besigye and Amuriat are accused of, is actually the Ugandan political culture, which believes in the strong man, which believes in a war chest, and I don't think it's about to change. So if, look, the cemetery of so-called moderates is littered with graves, you know? At every juncture, the moderates have lost in this country. And I think for like Yoweri Museveni, who are very smart, recognized early enough that you must be someone with the war chest. That is the Ugandan mindset. Maybe because we are a land of kingdoms with the kings, and so people generally seem to believe in a strong man. So when I see the gymnastics in the FDC suggesting that you can have a force that is sort of moderate, diplomatic, I mean, we saw what happened to Mzee Jabir Bidandisali with this, who was considered a gentleman, but is now in oblivion. Amama Mbabazi, I mean, DP, which is said to be a party of moderates, a very party of pious people, but it has struggled. So it's always the rascals who have kind of triumphed in the Ugandan politics. So you can say, you can look at it in a way.
I can see Gerald is itching to come in. But
just
just
before
if I
Gerald
can,
comes in, I just wanted
just
to
a
give
moment.
a little clarification on some of the things Gerald was trying to portray, that there are two camps in FDC. We agreed as NEC that we are not working in a very ideal situation. We are working to approve somebody who was stuck in power for a very long time. So we agreed that our approach is going to be multi-pronged, whereby, like you call it, naturally every party must organize and mobilize all the time. You cannot be a party and say, we are not going to organize and build structures. That is one of the approaches we used. Then we said, since this is not a very ideal situation, NEC endorsed that the second approach was through defiance, through civil disobedience. So the two are not working in isolation. The two are intertwined. So some of you try to divorce one from the other and try to say, these ones are for this. Even General Muntu, let me tell you, Gerard, you were with me in Soroti. I had General Muntu really supporting defiance. He said, we endorse this in NEC, and I support it. So for people to come out and say, he's against it, and that is...
Yes, that did come out, Sarah, in your campaigns. That General Muntu's approach of organization was a policy position adopted by the party, or that he had been supported on that organization path, was not evident in your campaign. It was not evident on election day. It was not evident. Post-election hasn't been evident.
The campaigns I listened to, I think it brought it out clearly that you have agreed on the two.
No. I'm talking about the camp you support. I'm not talking about his camp, because he said for him he was for organization, but the other tenants could work alongside.
I did not see that in my campaign. I did not see anybody campaigning on those lines.
We need to be clear. You know, it has happened. We had an election. It went the way it did. So there are things we can't run away from. Now, it is true, and I like the fact that it's coming from you, my friend, because you see, when you agree that actually it was under the leadership of General Muntu, as the president of FDC, that you can have the two tendencies work together. You know, I had my friend here on us speak about the militancy. General Muntu, at the age of 23, I remember, I think I was even still at the law school when I was 23. He went to the extreme of defiance. He went to the bush, he picked guns. So, for me, when I see people say that, we know the moderates, the thing is, we've had over 55 years of independence. We've done exactly the same things, militancy. And by the way, the truth is, the leader we support, those who know him, he's a very competent commander when it comes to military issues. But we must come to a realization as a nation that has not solved our problems. That we have done the same thing. We've done the same things since independence. We've had 9 leaders, we've changed the government militarily, and we've remained largely the same. So do we keep doing the same thing and we expect different results? So that's one. Now let me come to my...
Gerald, just a moment.
Yeah.
If you said that before election day,
Yes.
maybe you'd be speaking with somebody. Now we're doing a post-mortem of an election in the FDC.
Yes.
And the question everybody's asking, what is the place of General Muntu in the FDC now? What is the place of moderates who support him, like Gerald Karhanga, and the other people he stood with, or he sat with at that press conference at Africana? Where is their place in the party? Will it provide accommodation? Or will you be comfortable in that place?
You know, that has been our question actually in the previous almost 10 years with FDC. You know, the rhetoric is very different from what we actually do. We say we can accommodate each other, we can appreciate both tendencies, and the tendencies are healthy. I have no issue. Fortunately, she says it, under the leadership of General Muntu, they accepted both tendencies formally as a party, and that was accepted. But when it comes to the real action in the field, then you have a whole set of leaders painting one side as completely against defiance, as completely against civil disobedience. And for me, I think that we missed the point, because we then draw guns towards each other as opposed to spending most of our energies focusing on regime change. And I think that's where we've failed to make where there is the missing link between the opposition, or particularly FDC, and the ordinary Ugandan. So we keep raising these issues, and my people, like in my own constituency, they keep saying, yes, you people talk about good governance, but you don't translate it. For me, it's about the security, or securing the future of my child, or making sure I have medicine, or making sure I will find a teacher for my child. So for us to keep focusing and having lots of these energies and largely against each other, we keep missing, I think, the main focus. And how I wish we could spend more of those energies.
For Honor General, you have won election since university. I don't think this is just about each other. It's about the base. And it's the base which dictates politics, right from your university days. You know that you must have your base. And the base, I think, is telling the FDC, or at least those who have won, that that's what the base wants. Unfortunately, you may say so. And you see, even those who don't want to get converted FDC are also having consolation in someone whom they see as strong. So I think Besij's approach is to say, if strength is what is appealing to Uganda, said you must show strength. Look, during elections, for example, you see the FDC youth mimicking the presidential convoy with the toy guns and all this. It's so amazing how people believe in it.
So, Honor, you think FDC has finally rediscovered itself, as some people have said, that it lost 5 years under General Muntu's leadership? Now that Paul has come in with a clear message on defiance, they're just coasting home to the finish line.
I don't know.
But I don't think
much will change, but I think maybe whatever base they have will be re-excited. But
yes, sir.
This is where things went wrong. Much as we accepted as a party that we get the two approaches, well, Jalmondo tried to bring it out in the campaigns, but at other times they would call it their thing. The defiance is the basic thing, as we are not going on the streets. Yet they knew it was an FDC thing. That's where the problem came out. And then another thing, people saw General Muntu speaking sometimes that is for defiance, but action was not there. They'll never see him real practicing defiance. So that's why people thought, probably he's just talking. We want a person with action. And when Ambudiat came out and said, yeah, I am going to be a man of action, people sided with him.
So
another
Sarah,
weakness,
Sarah,
which his campaign...
You realize, Sarah, from what you're saying, that the hyperbole, the exaggeration you accused the media of is actually internal. What you just said is internally within the FDC. There was no action, there was no
Yeah, that's
their thing and stuff like that. So,
those are some
so
of
it's
the
not a
things.
creation. You appreciate that you have issues to deal with internally within the FDC.
Yes, and those were campaign issues. Unfortunately, I do not like to go into things that will split us much more. But those are some of the campaign issues that came out. They were asking General Muntu for the 5 years, what are you putting on the table? What have you done? I'm not going to repeat what he said. But people were like, really, really? This is not what I had expected out of you. So that's where the problem came in. They were asking for accountability. Tell us what you've done for 5 years. And he had no answers to give. And another thing, I think, his campaign team, instead of concentrating on explaining this, they went elsewhere. At first, let me tell you when I knew Patrick was going to win, is the first message from the chief campaigner, Honorable Ibrahim Semju. The first thing he did was to start branding a person who has been in parliament with him, who had been there longer than him, had been there 15 years. They started saying, this Patrick Amrat is a villager. This one, these people who are Besije, who follow Besije are blind followers.
To colleagues, especially when not here.
I'm coming out.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it out. So what does Patrick do? Semuju forgot that 85% of the delegates are not from the urban setting. They're from the rural area. So what did Patrick do? He took advantage of that, the campaigning message from him, and went and identified with the villagers. Instead of taking them to hotels to eat food and whatever, he went and sat on the campfire with them, ate roasted potatoes and cassava. So that's where you lost it.
No. I think we need
you
to
don't
be honest.
start undermining an opponent to an extent of calling him a villager, and 80% of the people are from the village. That's when I saw Patrick was winning. The rest I knew was...
You say people calling each other villagers, you don't do that, and Gerald is saying we need to be honest.
Yeah.
So if you could just Google that.
Surely, the terminology she's using was a creation of their own campaign.
No.
It never came out from our campaign. General Mont has always run a very credible. And you know what? Even when, by the way he operates, even when you really support him, and I can say this again and again, and everybody would agree with me, at least honestly, that if he gets an idea that you're about to go out of the decent campaign, he will pick his phone and call you as an individual and say, that's not how I run my campaigns. And so let's keep focused on the issues. Now, there's one thing I also want to clear. To say that General Muntu for 5 years in FDC, I want to say one, his achievements are known, and I'm certain the FDC members, especially the senior leaders, and I expected my sister here to, she knows them. But the environment also you operated in is also very known. If you are going to run a party, you have no support of your Secretary General, who literally has every power to all the resources of the party. Everything you try to do, you are largely undermined by your own colleagues. We know how this began. You are talking about defiance. When the elections happened last year, the party agreed to have lots of civil actions. This was supposed to begin at FDC headquarters. General Mont was there. How many of these party leaders? In fact, when you say that Honorable Amriat is more a man of action, and General Mont is not, I can only smile.
That was his campaign message.
No, I can only smile because you know why? Because we all know the two men right from their childhood to where they are, but also we know their participation within the party. I happened to serve for 5 years in Parliament with Honorable Amriat. Honestly, I would say so many nice things about him, but I wouldn't say that he was really a man of action as you want to portray him. So, but for me, those again.
Of course, I think.
Those again.
You had this last gust.
Yeah, those
again.
Those
Dokunjiri images. I mean, okay. I think you played well.
Yeah, those again distract us from what we are supposed to focus on. I think the area will make this shorter. These contradictions going on. The area we make them shorter and focus on our large goal to provide a better future for Ugandans. I think that's what Ugandans want here.
Let's pick it up after a short commercial break. We'll be right back. You're still watching the Fourth Estate, and we are discussing the post-election conflict or crisis unfolding within Uganda's largest opposition party, the Forum for Democratic Change. It did swear in a new president on Friday in Patrick Oboy Amuriat, who was a member of parliament for 15 years. He's an engineer, and we hosted him on the show last Sunday, shortly after he had won, heading into his inauguration. The big question is, how does FDC deal with the contradictions that have become very apparent with this particular campaign? And I want to ask the two officials, the two people. Gerald Karuhanga is an independent member of parliament, but leaning to the opposition, and particularly the Forum for Democratic Change. He represents Ntungamo municipality. And Sarah Peru is the national spokesperson of the FDC Women's League. And of course, Ona Peter Komoloit, who is a part of the Fourth Estate. Ona, watching what is going on within the FDC, the audit starts in 2012 when Besigye decides to cut his term short and give way to a new leader. That's why FDC has two elections almost in the same year, two major national delegates conferences in the same year, because they have to elect the party leadership and they also have to elect a party flag bearer for elections. FDC will be holding its next delegates conference, I believe around 2020, to elect a party flag bearer. And this in itself, from what I hear, has caused it has made life difficult for them. One, it makes it very expensive, but two, it doesn't allow for healing. In the last 5 years, the FDC has not healed from the fallout in the election of General Muntu, who defeated Nandala Mafabi. Gerald has just told us, if you have your Secretary General and he's not supporting you when he's controlling the resources, then what kind of healing are you talking about? Where does FDC go after this?
Look, I think to their credit, they seem to always be able to come back from the dead. Because I remember during the last election, for example, there was quite some appearance of solidarity between Besigye, General Muntu, and Nandala Mafabi. They were so energized thinking they would win this time. So at least they were able to, or they are always able to marshal an appearance of unity. But as I said, I don't think they have a lot of options, because the so-called third force has existed. It just doesn't have a place in Uganda. The FDC, which has remained, first of all, it's also a branch of the only force, which was the NRM, and which, so it can't again keep on splitting further. So I don't see it going. I think these cycles of disagreement, which to their credit, what you should expect in any political group, and at least they are able to stay together without falling apart.
And
Sarah, let me put this question this way. The reason Dr. Besigye quit early was to be able to organize a lot more freely. So the defiance tendency has been very much alive in the last 5 years, as the organization and structures tendency of General Muntu has been alive. If you as FDC do stock taking, would you say that you have made progress? And their numbers show, yes, you performed very well in the presidential election. But people say the biggest challenge facing the FDC is that you focus on the presidential election. You don't focus on the structures that are supposed to. One, if you win, you were to win an election that would enable you to form a viable government. Number two, that you have not staffed the other important structures of leadership. You have not focused on them sufficiently to increase the numbers of members of parliament, to increase representation in local governments. And now there is supposed to be local council and elections, and everybody is asking whether defiance organization or structures building is FDC present anywhere that it can significantly mount a challenge and tilt the balance.
Sometimes I feel extremely uncomfortable when people try to use the presidential elections as a yardstick to measure whether FDC has improved or not. You know, it is usually a stolen election. You cannot use those results to say whether we have improved or not. But having said that,
you added almost a million voters, a million votes from the last election.
Much more than that, because as far as we are concerned as FDC, we won the election. We got 52% of the votes. So once you start saying you're going to gauge us by the declarations of the Electoral Commission, I become a little very uncomfortable. We tried.
And I have a message here for you from Nteje Asimwe. He is watching us from Fort Portal, and he's saying, if under the leadership of General Muntu as party president, you managed to win the election with 52% and it was only stolen with guns by President Yoweri Museveni and the NRM, then how do you accuse him of failing to deliver?
It's a tough one. Huh?
No, it's not a tough one, but because there's something else that I wanted to bring out. Maybe I'll answer his question, but what I wanted to tell you is that we did not concentrate on the presidential elections only. That is why you find that at the level of members of parliament, all our members of parliament that came out to contest were funded. All the councillors were given nomination fees by the party. So for somebody to come out and say, we usually concentrate on the presidential
under the
part
leadership
only.
of General Muntu.
But even before that, the party was,
and
even
you
before
say
General
you
Muntu.
don't know what he was doing for 5 years. Huh? No, it's okay.
Well,
you can proceed.
That one has been happening even before. Even before the 2016 elections. We were funded by the party. It's only that...
how many were funded in that election?
Oh, many. Whoever came out to contest. In 2011, I contested myself. Yeah. My nomination fees were paid by the party. So whoever came out had their nomination fees paid. And that time, we did not have even funding from government. Recently,
yeah, but
at
how
least,
much were you paying then and how much was paid in the last election?
The spirit was there. The spirit is what I'm looking at. Much as we did not have money, the party came out and supported people who wanted to contest. So I don't want you to give it credit to General Muntu. That is the only one who did it. We have done it before. So all our councillors were funded. So in future, tell people we've tried all levels.
You know, you have the people, they are watching you, so you should tell them.
Coming to Ntega Asimwe, you know, they tried to use that. There's a General Muntu, who is a party president, and you have a Dr. Kizza Besigye, a very charismatic candidate, a person who has tried it, a person who has enormous support. I don't want to tell you that it's only FDC people who voted for Colonel Kizza Besigye. Other parties also came and supported him and voted for him. So for somebody to say it's only FDCs because it's General Muntu who was at the helm who voted for Dr. Kizza Besigye is a lie. He got support from all over the place.
So,
much as he was the president, credit has to go to him, but also the candidate mattered most. That is why we got these results. You cannot approach the two in isolation of each other and say the credit must go to General Muntu alone. So as a party, coming back to the conflict, we do not have any conflict in FDC. It is you, the media, and the other side. They are so happy. But you know, what kills me every day is seeing they're very sorry. They feel so sad for General Muntu's loss, more than us, the FDC. General Muntu is our person. Why doesn't the NRM leave him for us? They're crying, they're crying for the dead more than the bereaved. Everywhere you go, General Muntu should have been. FDC decided, and they have to respect the decision the FDC people made. So, Karwang, I don't want you to join the NRM people who are crying too much over a loss which is not theirs.
We are not
this is our party. Let them leave us to do our thing, our way. The people, the delegates spoke, and they should respect it.
Okay, someone, Gift Nansana, says, with all the honesty and sincerity, General Muntu is such a highly composed, extremely gentle, and intelligent, rare Ugandan politician. I am not sure why this time round he allowed his emotions to override him. It's unfortunate, however, that majority of the FDC leaders have adamantly ignored to see the asset in General Muntu to FDC. Bwana, did you realize that majority people who were not happy with General Muntu's statement during the press conference are the NRM apologists and opportunists? Majority of them were actually waiting for the announcement that he has exited FDC.
Exactly.
I'm not sure yet why this was the case.
Exactly.
Just like Arsene Wenger at Arsenal FC, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye Chifefe is not taking FDC anywhere. He has adamantly refused to appreciate that the approach and method that he has used over the years is not yielding results. He should gently leave the front bench at FDC. How does FDC accommodate its elders? Because one of the major challenges you're having to deal with is the place of Dr. Kizza Besigye. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think a party must have leaders, and the members of the party must choose who becomes the party president, who becomes a flag bearer, and who will help them win an election. Now, for me, it's not more of or Dr. Besije or General Monto or Patrick. Or for me, I think it should be more of one, having an institution that will ultimately, at some point, engage in a more formidable way and take power, not just win an election. So, if in the circumstances we've been trying to do what we've done in the previous 4 elections, presidential elections, and we have not managed to take power, and the colleagues say, oh no, we could keep trying, we just keep trying, and you want to ask yourself, you want to pause and say, wait a minute, do I really want to sit and say that I can keep exactly engaging in the similar manner, campaigning in the same way, doing exactly the same thing by, for instance, having an issue that, oh, maybe these moderates or the Ugandans have been sitting on the fence, or because they probably, some of them sympathize with General Monto. So you even find that an issue, and you keep campaigning in a given direction, and you say, yes, ultimately I'll have a different result.
But
So
I
want to say that I want to change and say I want to do things differently.
Gerald, you've had
Yes.
5 years to try and do that. You had the last 5 years, between 2012 and 2017.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And rightly said. That's why the last election, to a large extent, I like the fact that she acknowledges that, yes, it's true, the candidate played a role, but also the party president played a fundamental role. So yes, there were interventions that were made. General Monto, actually for the first time, you remember, I think everyone would agree with me that everyone had always asked, what is FDC's agenda? What do they stand for? What do they want to achieve when they get power? General Monto, amidst the very difficult circumstances he was serving as president of FDC, he managed to have that answered. I have not had a single journalist or a single person ask again that same question, what is FDC's agenda? And he did that. That wasn't easzy. So
the FDC policy platform
Yes.
that was launched just behind us here.
And codenamed
I think
Leap Forward.
Yes.
Yeah. So
The Leap Forward in 2015, I think.
So for me, the fact that there were certain things that were done even amidst very challenging circumstances, it tells that it is possible, as a people, as Ugandans, that even when we have some disagreements, even when because again, it's not easy to agree on everything, that we can still get together and say, what is our challenge and how do we deal with it?
Is that a question you're asking yourselves in the FDC?
Yeah, I think it's a question that's going on. It's a question that I want to imagine every Ugandan that is objective.
No. I'm being specific, Gerald.
Yes.
I'm asking, is that a question? What is our challenge? Is that a question that you're asking yourselves as FDC? And you just said that you've gone through 4 elections doing things the same way. From what I have heard, is that every election that has passed, the FDC, or from the times of Reform Agenda, has said, we won this election, we were cheated. After the 2001 election, Dr. Kizza Besigye went to court, and the court ruled, said there were
Anomalies.
yes, there were anomalies in the election. They didn't overturn it. In 2006, Dr. Kizza Besigye went to court, got the same ruling.
Yeah.
Same findings of the court, same ruling. 2011 decided not to go to court. 2016 didn't go to court. But after every election, the FDC has said, we won this election, we were cheated or denied of our victory. So, the thing that is missing is to take the leap and take power. And I'm asking myself, is there serious discussion within the FDC that says, wait a minute, there must be something that we're not doing right? Actually, what we see is your numbers in parliament have stagnated, have not grown at all in the many elections that you have had.
Yes.
And there should be an explanation for that.
Yeah, yeah. You know, Charles, the beauty with FDC, they are very competent leaders that can actually think through these issues. However, you know, again, you can have a very wonderful thought process, but you choose either deliberately or sometimes actually not even deliberately not to deal with the real challenges. Yes, it's true, FDC has been winning the elections. And it's true actually that last year with the candidature of Dr. Besigye as FDC under the presidency of General Muntu, won the election, actually did pretty well. Now, the question has always remained, so then what happens? How come we fail to take power? Is there anything we have done that is different from what we did in 2001 or in 2006 or in 2011 or 2016? So for me, I think that's where FDC is not critically engaging. And for me, we can do better on that one.
So maybe doing some straight talk, are you suggesting that maybe you get stopped from taking power due to fear for Dr. Besigye? So if he was not the one, maybe he would be allowed to take power.
That is a lie they keep on telling.
You know, there are those who have said so. There are those who have said so. But I don't want to think that that's entirely the position. You see,
because how else will General Muntu change the dynamics?
Okay, yeah.
Maybe are you saying, because if it's the state,
now
if the state is over time.
Let me explain it. Let me put it this way. You know, the approach to almost anything in life is, one, what's going to give the confidence to those who are the players, but two, is what ultimately will get you to the goal you want to get to. If I am an actor in politics in Uganda, and by your message consistently threatens my coexistence, certainly I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I still exist. So if we honestly, and I want to think that anybody who loves FDC want to appreciate that that's an area that the party has not really focused on deeply, to say, what is the missing link? How come?
Shall I tell you
how
what
come,
the missing link
how
is?
come that we win these elections? Ugandans actually appreciate us. They give us big support. There are big rallies. People come in big numbers. But then, for some reason, when we are about to capture power, we don't. And there is a critical, and this is very critical, a critical group of Ugandans that feel so insecure that if the FDC in its current state gets leadership, their lives are threatened.
Oh,
so you see that. So if that remains the case,
so how do you deal with that?
Yeah. So how do you do exactly? How do you deal with that? How you deal with it is the message you tell them that Uganda is for all of us, that this is going to be an inclusive government, that we shall make sure everyone lives a better life. So the moment that does not come out well, the moment, and for me, I think, honestly, if you ask me why I have always supported FDC from where I am, and not right probably at the center, that has always been my concern. Because I participated as a student, and I know how, I have an idea about how to do some of these things.
If I come back to Sarah,
so
if you'll indulge me for a moment,
yes,
Gerald, people listening to you,
yes,
the people have been talking and saying, you possibly own either the way out from that third force, an alternative vehicle. The other who think, okay, now Museveni is managing these FDC guys, because if people begin, and I think that's what came out more strongly, that there is one group that says we cannot engage in any kind of discussion with Museveni because, as some of you have said, Museveni is a dictator, you can't have a discussion with him. There are others who think the moment you begin a discussion, maybe that justifies the accusation that we had around your candidate, General Muntu, that people call him a Moor.
Well, you know, I have participated in politics, not for so many years, but I've gained some bit of experience. And I've learned that when you really believe you have an objective position, sometimes not everybody will understand you. and you pursue it. Even you've seen struggles, they begin with much smaller groupings. And along the way, people appreciate your cause. So if, for instance, the solution to getting this regime leave power peacefully, like we saw what happened in Zimbabwe, was discussion, why wouldn't that happen? Okay. Why should somebody, have an issue with that?
Sir, you have a position now under the new leadership in FDC. The position is defiance. And I'm saying this because the party president announced it as his principal way of leadership, both at the debate which I moderated with Peter Kivazo, and at the final campaign in Nambole. The position is defiance. How does this deliver you? Do you think this will deliver you in the next 3 years to?
I hope you took time off to read what he's going to do in the first 100 days.
I've seen the 9-point program.
And amongst them, amongst the issues is he's going to build structures. We're going to build up structures again. He's going to reorganize. And I don't think he just emphasized defiance. The two are intertwined. Don't try to divorce, isolate one from the other. But before I go further, I'm very disappointed with Gerald. He does not know where the missing link is. As long as Mr. Museveni does not have the political will to leave power, you'll wrongly keep on blaming FDC. We put a fantastic manifesto to the public.
FDC, did I?
No, you're saying the internal dynamics, the internal. We put a very fantastic manifesto, and rightly as you put it, we won the election. So for you to say we have to change things in FDC, that's why, like he said, I don't want to repeat the things he said. It becomes very unfair. Some people think as long as it's Besigye, we can never get power. It must be Muntu, then we get power. Really? Whether it is Muhoozi, Mr. Museveni does not have the political will to leave power. That is where the missing link is. So many of these things we are trying to do, as long as he's still stuck there, he'll use every gun, he'll use every tear gas to ensure that.
And what will you do to make sure that changes?
We are mobilizing. That's why our approach is multi-pronged. If the election way is not working out, we shall go via defiance. And defiance has won in many countries. It has done it in Tunisia. It has done it all over the world. So that's why we are using a multi-pronged approach. But having said that, I'm very disappointed in the way you people are treating Dr. Kizza Besigye.
Who has mistreated? Who has spoken?
The NRM are harassing. Well, I'm not his spokesperson. I'm not his defense lawyer. But I think I must say this. The NRM has squeezed his life so much. He has no freedom. He's under 24-hour surveillance. He's tear gas all over wherever he goes. He lives in prison almost permanently. And in FDC, where I thought would appreciate him and at least have him the chance to choose and associate with a candidate of his choice, it has become a big case on him. The problem they are putting forward, this other side that they want to use for splitting, is Dr. Kizza Besigye took sides with one candidate. Really? Can't even have the right to vote a candidate.
Let me just put this before you take a break. Honor, I'll come to you after the break. Someone commented last week and said I shouldn't be picking messages from my phone, which I partly agree with. So I'm going to ask the production crew to put up the number so that you can call us and share with us your views of this post-election crisis in Uganda's biggest opposition party, the Forum for Democratic Change. But I just want to ask Sarah and Gerald, can you just listen to yourself for a moment and tell us, you said we're exaggerating. Can you just listen to yourself and then tell us what exactly is the viewer out there getting if they're not members of the FDC or within the structures and they've been watching what's going on? Do you still believe that the conflict within FDC is a creation outside of the Forum for Democratic Change itself? We'll answer that after a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this last segment. The phone line is on your screens. Pick your phone, call us. Let me just ask that when you call us, kindly turn down the volume on your TV set. You don't have to be listening to yourself on your own TV and then talking to us because we'll get an echo. And keep your questions or comment brief and kindly no insulting language should be used. Yes, Ona?
Yeah, I think generally, Charles, listen to the two-party leaders or officials. there are no easy answers for the FDC's dilemma. If indeed they have been winning, but have been stopped from taking power, then that is, you need a Zimbabwe situation. I mean, somebody with the power must intervene and hand it over to them, which I think is not about to happen. But it's also very possible, and there is a lot of credible argument that they have not actually won the election the way they say they have won. And for me, if that's what really makes perhaps that argument plausible is that it's very difficult anywhere in the world to find a political party or group that will win an election without a geographic base or an emotional base. It may be sort of religious, but largely it's geographic. Across the world, political groups have areas where they get a vote to the man, almost 100%. In neighboring Kenya here, you know what happens. In the US, there are states which are not be Democrats, which are not be Republican. Where is the FDC base in this country? You know, you can say it's all over the country, but of course it's not true. I think one of the debates that this election has illuminated, maybe why General Muntu is being criticized, and even Besigye to a certain extent, that they have actually failed to swing Western Uganda, which is an open secret, is one of the strengths of President Museveni, because he gets high margins in those areas historically. But perennially there has been no evidence. While FDC has been winning, at least there has been evidence that it has won in other parts of the country.
Even the West?
It has not won.
We floored Kasese?
But that's a small area.
Let me just say this, even before Sarah defends. If you look closely, you'll find that FDC has expanded its map in Western Uganda.
Yes.
Because it has support in Kasese, total control in Kasese, expanded Rukunjiri, Ntungamo, even if Gerald didn't stand on a party ticket, but he's a party member.
What percentage are those areas of the greater Western Uganda?
We have at least even in Ankole, we have
Mujuche
there.
You have Mujuche in Buhweju. Let me pick some callers and then I'll come back to you to answer the questions.
Yes.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, Charles. Good evening to you.
Good evening, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm Simon.
Simon, go ahead with your question or comment, sir.
My first comment is Onapito is not clear with these facts. I think he's stating alternative facts that are pleasing to him. Especially when he says that the FDC has no geographical base, but also when the lady suggests to him about Kasese and Budibujo and so forth, he says they are small. I mean, they have begun somewhere. Secondly, in his suggestion is that we have been having peaceful and credible elections. That's not true, and he should know that. That should be the basis for his criticism of any opposition, which he does not seem to acknowledge. He says there's nothing like a second force or a third force, there's only Museveni, but he must know the operating environment. The context should define his response. He should not be oblivious of the force, the military that is coming to quash the opposition. My last comment is, no, I think I'll leave it to that.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Ona will respond to you. Can I pick another caller? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good evening. Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Sajansi Interior Road.
Yes, your name?
I'm called Miriam.
Yes. Go ahead.
I would like to ask you that, madam.
Yes.
If they say they really won 2016 election, why don't they have the majority of MPs?
Okay.
And secondly, I would want to ask Honorable Karuhanga to take my message to General Muntu. Some of us who are not FDC, but who are really disgusted with the kind of our own movement, with what they are doing, especially.
Did you lose that? Did we lose you? Sorry. If you can call us back, please. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, please. Your name, sir, and where you're calling from?
This is Agaba from Naguru.
Yes, Agaba, go ahead.
Yeah, I thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
But my first comment goes to Madame Eperu, telling her that she should stop contradicting herself, and that she should allow Honorable Gerard Karhanga to teach. Okay, she should accept what Mr. Karanga is talking about. Because Mr. Karanga is really talking the facts. We, like me, I'm not an FDC guy. But the reason as why Muntu, the name Muntu has risen all the way in all parts of Uganda is that Muntu has been talking to everybody, whether NRM, whether DPC, whether DP, convincing he or she that we should all struggle for change. Now, if Madame Eperu is not being thankful of what Mr. Muntu has done for FDC, I really get surprised and very, very much annoyed. We are totally disappointed with what Madame Eperu is talking about before the people.
Okay.
Because, lastly,
yes,
I want to tell Madame Eperu that right now we know 3 people in FDC. And when you talk of FDC, for us as Ugandans, we know General Muntu, we know Madame Winnie Chiza, the leader of operation in the parliament, and Honorable Semujunganda. Those are the people in FDC. And I want to tell Madame Eperu, she has talked of Tunisia. Tunisia defied and eventually got into power because they were united. By the FDC of this moment is not united. The person who should have done this or who should have read FDC is Mr. General Bishop Muntu, whom they have fight themselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Agaba.
I want to thank Mr. Karanga.
Yes.
That did a good job to teach Madame Eperu. And I would like to. She was talking of West Japangi under arrest or 24 hours, West abroad. Now and then, the moment he was, she's talking, so we should thank the
Thank you, Agaba. I think you made your point. Thank you very much.
Very bitter.
Thank you. We have another call. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
John Omukur from Teso.
Yes, please.
I think the challenge here is that Honorable Eperu has the same thing that they do as FDC. You know, you cannot tell me that Mugisha Muntu was a president and he delivered the victory for the presidential candidate, but you still want to call him like he didn't perform. 2, one of the moderators there has raised something about where is FDC's power center. If you looked at FDC, the firebrand FDC was in Teso, for example. But you see how, for example, NRM has infiltrated Teso to the extent that the likes of Alaso lose elections, the likes of Amuriata lose elections, the appetites are not back there. You know, those are things you need to be looking at as a party. Then, of course, I find it, that is fallacy when you keep saying you are winning elections and you are not, you know, if this is a part where someone keeps telling you, this time we are going to defend the vote. But again, afterwards, they have stolen the vote. What is wrong with their security?
Okay. Thank you, John. Thank you for your comment. Do you have another call? Hello? Hello?
Afterwards, they have stolen the vote. What is wrong with their security?
I think he's still on. Hello? Yes. Yes. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
This is Evan from Barasa.
Yes, Evans. Go ahead.
Truly, FDC has disappointed Ugandans. All they miss, what they are lacking, is ground level. They need to start from the ground. And that is what Muntu has been talking about, though they have been denying him the opportunity to do that. And as one of the callers has said, many people in NRM, many people who are there, not belonging in any organization, we are ready to support Mugisha Muntu and we do something else.
Thank you.
So we are ready to back him up.
And Arema got support Mugisha Muntu to do something else.
Thank you, Evans. Do we have another caller? Hello? Hello?
There you go.
Hello?
It is important.
Hello?
Is that one on? Hello? Yes?
Hey, how are you?
Fine. How are you, ma'am? What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Natete.
From Natete. Your name?
Irene.
Irene, go ahead.
I want to ask, I'm telling that madam
Yes, please.
that we don't see the difference between Mr. Besigye and Mr. Museveni. Because Mr. Museveni is standing as a sole candidate in his party, also Mr. Besigye is playing the same tricks, so there is no difference. Let them go back on the drawing board and set the thing again.
Okay, thank you very much, Irene. Unfortunately, we can't take more callers because our time is limited. I can hear the phone is still ringing, but we can't take more callers. We got to bring this short on in. Let me also pick some messages that people sent, and this debate is ongoing and continuing on our social media platforms. So pick it up from there and continue engaging. Let me just take a few messages from here. Anthony is watching us from the United States and says, anti-Besigye forces outside FDC are winning a public relations battle against Besigye, and this explains why internally FDC people are starting to question the idea of defiance. Defiance and functional structures can coexist in FDC, especially given the environment calls for a multi-pronged approach. I would encourage the Muntu side to listen carefully to Onapito about the best. The elites may prefer Muntu, but majority of our voters aren't elites. Anthony Muntu is no longer president, so I don't know even if they listened what that would deliver for them. This is from Ongwen's Kisangalan. He says, how can Gerald call for honesty and he does so saying Sarah is dishonest by referring to what Semuju said? How can Gerald have the guts to deny something Semuju wrote in a national newspaper, The Observer, and calls the person referring to it as dishonest? These guys are masters of deception, but unfortunately for them, the supreme authority of the party has understood that. So what happened in the 2016 elections, which FDC won? Dr. Besigye harnessed the votes massively and won elections squarely, but there was no effective mechanism in place to secure that win decisively. The famous P10, which tried to secure the results of the elections, was put up in the middle of the same campaign, and so it couldn't be as effective as was designed or desired. May Gerald state exactly what the Muntu administration did differently from past practices in order to earn FDC a win in the 2016 presidential race? That's for you to answer, Gerald. Julius in Imbarara says, I am surprised by my friend Honorable Karuhanga's argument. He seems not to be seeing how the state is managing opposition whenever they come mobile for the support. Who doesn't know that you cannot speak in radio stations in Kampala? I would like Honorable to tell us the strategy that we could use in any case. Does he sit on any committee? Why can't he give his views? He is a party cadre. Let him also mobilize for the party. Please, then we need, okay, it needs a WhatsApp number where message can be sent. I will share that. Margaret Baguma is watching us, and she says, when is the burial of the Forum for Democratic Change so that we can prepare Mabogo? We need a new party with a different style of leadership, headed by General Muntu. Someone else says, the difference between Besigye and Museveni is the grammatical tense. Museveni believes he's the only one who saved this country, while Besigye thinks he's the only one who can save this country. KB has stayed for so long on the political scene that people now feel he doesn't practice what he preaches, and the masses feel safer with Museveni, who openly brags of being the Messiah. Museveni doesn't have to employ the state machinery to win in 2021 if it's best in the ballot. The politicians who indeed wish well this country should leave the one-man army theory to Golola Moses and resort to building structures. It might be a slow and tedious process, but it's more sustainable. This person doesn't give their name. I think I will stop there for messages for tonight. And someone's, okay. Anthony, I think I read this. He says they should listen to Onapito in case they are considering leaving the party. Yeah, I think that's it. Sarah, you listen to the messages. You listen to what Ugandans are saying. to you.
I'd like to thank them, first of all, for tuning in and spending a little money to interact with us. Irene from Natete, let me start with Irene.
Sure, go ahead.
He said Besigye and Museveni are the same. They're their sole candidates. Besigye should go away. Unless you're not following the politics of FDC very well, we do not have sole candidates in my party. Even when Dr. Besigye is declared a flag bearer, he goes through an election, which is usually free and fair. So we don't have that terminology. You're misinformed. Gaba, who was extremely bitter, was telling me to listen to Gerard Karuhanga, an independent, to teach me about FDC things.
He's a member of FDC. He's not a
He's
card-holding member.
independent. He left the party. So I can't come here and start listening. In fact, I've been nice to him to allow him to comment on things of our party, which he does not belong to. So, Mr. Gaba, I've just been nice to him. Then he's saying FDC should accept. And my friend Agaba, I would like you to start respecting the decisions made by FDC party through their delegates. The two candidates put their manifestos forward, and the delegates chose Patrick Amriat. So I wish it was a little early. You would have spent some money to come and campaign for your candidate. Probably you would have gone through. But now there's little we can change. Good enough, Amriat has accepted he's not going to stay 5 years. He's going to stay only 3 years. Campaign for General Muntu when he comes up, or your other candidate, and they vote him. But for you to silence me, assuming I don't know, I know a lot about FDC, more than Karuhanga. Then
there was John Inteso.
Oh, there's another person who asked that we say we won the presidential elections. We do not have enough members of parliament. The system we have here is not the parliamentary system, my sister. In the parliamentary system, it depends on how many members of parliament you have in parliament. I think that's the one who will be declared as a winner. But we have a presidential system whereby the president is voted on his own and members of parliament. So to bring an argument that because certain constituencies didn't come to us, so Dr. Besigye didn't win, beats my understanding. I can give you the example of my district.
That was a lady from Kajansi. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the lady. She's Miriam, yes.
Yes, Miriam.
Yes.
I think the argument she's raising is what other people looking at the FDC from outside are asking. FDC has not focused on growing its numbers in parliament and other elective positions. And they're saying if FDC were to be declared the winner of an election, a presidential election...
That was not her argument.
No, she says the evidence that you won the presidential election would also be reflected by the...
That's what I'm explaining to her. This is not a parliamentary system. No. I can give her an example of my district.
Are you comfortable with the numbers that you have in parliament? And
I'm not.
What are you doing about it?
I'm not. But why did we lose? Much as we tried to contest many constituencies, you know the kind of election you go through. That's why I'm usually very uncomfortable. The rigging, the whatever... You know what happens? Most of our people will rig that.
But Sarah, you appreciate that that is the environment in which you're playing your politics.
Yes.
Your responsibility as an opposition party and as an alternative is to overturn it. And majority of the people who are not card-holding members or who might even be supporting other political parties but would want to vote for you is for you to demonstrate that you can battle the odds and change. So when you lament and say, but you know the system, you know the odds are against which we are fighting, what do you expect for
There are things that you can change. Deliberately, this regime has made Ugandans extremely poor. So at election time, they use that opportunity to manipulate them. And they flood a lot of money into the election, which we as opposition can't afford. We do not have the money. But because
you possibly didn't have a superior message.
No. We had the message. We had the message, but we did not have the finances to manipulate people. So as long as the election is as bad as it is, we'll try everything we possibly can. And we have always tried. We send the messages out to the people. But where it comes to manipulating people you have deliberately made poor, it becomes
our time is very short, so I'm going to ask you to run through the last
who was it? John, what did John say?
John was asking... same feeling as they do in FDC, as FDC? Yeah, Teso, so you lost in Teso, you had been a strong force in Teso, now you have been uprooted. I think he was reinforcing what Onapito said, that where is your footprint in the country?
Of course, it is, still the answer is the same. You know what elections we went through. And many of our people were not voted back to parliament, because they didn't have money. Look at the petition my sister Alaso put in court. The circumstances surrounding that kind of election, with anginas, with the military caning people, and there are certain things that are beyond our control. So sometimes maybe people will blame us.
But let me ask, I'm taking a lot of time on this. How am I, as an ordinary voter, non-aligned, expected to respond to a message from you, a member of the National Executive Committee of the Forum for Democratic Change, who says, but you know the environment in which you're operating, so what do you expect me to do? That
is why we tell them that you come and vote in huge numbers, such that even when they try to rig, the true results will overwhelm them, and they'll do nothing. We need
to move on. Have about 3 minutes to end this show. Let me come to you, Honor. Someone said you're using alternative facts. Simon?
I'm just thinking outside the box, and you know that's not very common. People want you to agree with them, which is natural, and I can understand it. Look, I was saying, in many electoral jurisdictions, for you to win, you must control territories in terms of electoral support. So it's fine. And it's quite a big contradiction, if there is belief that FDC has swept Kasese, then it's also possible that it could sweep the whole country without the Electoral Commission doing otherwise. So unless if NRM is staging this sweeping of Kasese and some other places, but if it's a true vote, then it means the NRM poll can argue that even where NRM is sweeping, they're also sweeping truly. So this is a big contradiction.
Okay.
Unless if FDC needs to disown even places where they win, to give credence to the argument that the Electoral Commission is just playing games. That maybe we didn't really win Kasese as well, we won in Tungamo, and they just changed. These are the contradictions.
Thank you.
Of course, people don't want to listen to this because they are passionate about what they believe in, but I'm an observer, I have to say what I have to say.
Gerald, you had quite a few comments coming your way.
Yes.
Can you respond?
One was about the comments that are still alluded to have been said or written by our colleague Honorable Semuju. Unfortunately, he's not here to speak for himself. However, I want to say that the articles that he wrote, that I read, I think he tried to position the two candidates, portray them according to him, with the interaction he had with both of them. If there was any that I missed, that probably was not, or had a little overtones, then certainly as a team, we owe them an apology. But I want to think there wasn't any of
That's what cost you the election.
Yeah, so I want to think there wasn't any of the kind. That was a creation of their own campaign. They tried it in 2012, it didn't work. But they kept at it, I think, for a long time. And this time, probably, it worked for them.
Okay.
So the other one, which I think was more of what we think we need to do as a people.
There was Ongwens who was asking. Yeah, Ongwens was speaking to that, which you responded to.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Then there was another one, which was basically about on what more can we do as dissenting voices to ensure that we take power when we win an election. I think that's, for me, the grand question. Actually, instead of spending so much time in these contradictions, we probably need to begin addressing ourselves to a very, very fundamental question. And I want to imagine, ultimately, when all this is done, because, again, we're going to consult for about 2 months. When all this is done, we should be able to speak cohesively as dissenting voices and have common positions to say that when we engage in an election or in any process to cause change, political change in this country, we must be broader in our approach. One, to be inclusive, not just for a few or for those who say we are the most opposing, but two, to appreciate more on how do we win that process, the election, for instance, and still take power. That, I think, we should spend more energies on that. And we're very hopeful that Ugandans are not short of women and men who can challenge this regime. I want to think that let nobody actually imagine that these struggles are about the individuals that we mentioned names here. The struggles are about the lives of Ugandans who are watching or who listen to us all the time, who are crying with all sorts of challenges. So for me, even when we have all this, we must keep, what should inform our decisions? Our hindsight should be informed by the fact that Ugandans are going through a lot and they want better leadership. And that's where we should put our energies.
Our time is out. We need to get out of here.
Finally, I would like to tell the public, we as FDC are intact. I want to call upon my brothers and sisters who are angered. It's natural to be angered after losing an election. Please come down, overcome the shock, and we come back and build the party, because we have a huge task ahead of us. And everybody is looking at FDC as the only hope that can bring change in this government. I'm happy my brother Gerard says General Muntu is going to consult. It's good to consult if it will increase the numbers in the party. But he has to go through the right channel. Let him go to the party, let NEC endorse his desire, and let him tell us how he's going to really roll out, so that he does not appear like he's doing something which is parallel from the party. And somebody was saying that people are Semuju and leader of opposition and General Muntu. That is good, but I plead with my leader of opposition. As a woman, I was extremely disappointed when she did not attend certain party functions. She has clearly shown she does not intend to work well with Patrick Amriat. So how are they going to work? Let's sober up and know this is the party.
Thank you very much. I think that's
she was not around, so really let's not make that an issue.
Okay, I think that's I think FDC has a lot of housekeeping to do.
Yeah. That
so
one, those things we're going to sort out internally.
And have to discuss.
We shall sort out everything, and we shall come out even more powerful. I know the NRM side is thinking this time they're breaking up.
We of course will be here watching and questioning you as the major opposition party. You have to answer questions. So we'll invite you and task you to explain what's going on within your party.
As the FDC tries to tear itself, they need to study. They need to. Okay, maybe that's too strong. They need to study the trends in how revolutionary governments, so to say, have been having change. I think one constant is clear. There is internal change due to age, internal age due to death, or internal age due to military disagreement. Okay. And the opposition, as seen in Zimbabwe, as seen in Angola, as seen in Ethiopia,
since everybody has had an opportunity for a last word, I'll give Gerald the last word.
Yeah, I certainly call upon everyone, including all of us who are here and those viewing us, that even when we have immediate issues, we must keep focused on ensuring that each one of us, and I know we all have places we come from, we see, even those who don't participate in politics very actively, we see what Ugandans are facing. They have been hoping, they have been praying, they have been seeking for better leadership. For many years, for several decades now, we've been eluded by this question of leadership. So whatever issues we have, let's resolve them, focused on taking power and using that power to change and turn around the lives of Ugandans.
On that note, can I plead with Gerard? Can I plead with Gerard to come back to FDC party, so that when you talk about these things, you talk like an insider?
I'm afraid.
Some people who are listening to you. It's about Uganda.
I'm afraid, Sarah, you have the opportunity to do that. Gerald hasn't deserted the party, I think. He was involved in the campaign.
Exactly.
Our time is out. Thank you very much, Gerald Karuhanga, Member of Parliament for Ntungamo Municipality, Independent. Thank you very much, Honour Peter Komoloit, Corporate and Legal Affairs Director, Nile Breweries AB InBev. And thank you very much, Sarah Eperu, National Spokesperson of the FDC Women's League. Thank you very much to you, all our viewers, for joining us tonight and always, and especially those of you who commented, especially those who made phone calls, who commented, and everyone who watched us. Thank you very much to the production crew that stays up late to deliver this show to you. Just one last word. I think our colleagues at the Red Paper have now almost 2 weeks because they were remanded last Monday. They still remain in jail for publishing the story, and I'm just wondering what this means for freedom of the press. I know they've angered a lot of people in their practice, but to have a paper closed down for that time and all the senior editors in jail without
Again,
sorting.
proving my notion about Ugandans with their militancy, they don't believe in discussion.
There's just one young man among them who has missed his opportunity to do exams. And I thought an offense like publishing a story shouldn't have cost him that. And he's not senior, very senior, which is rather sad. From me, it's a good night.